Hi folks, this is awesome. We are back at Area 419. I'm here with Jon again. We had the chance to come up, I think it was a little over a year ago, not here at their original shop, their old shop. I'm super excited for this. It is machining, it is fixturing, it is manufacturing entrepreneurship, it is building these products, bringing them to market. I'm excited to have Jon show us around. We'll do timestamps in the video. Let's dive in. Where do we start?
Yeah, we're in a brand new building that we built. We were in my backyard. What started as a 600 square foot garage got added on to become a 5,000 square foot garage.
Was it that big?
Kind of disconnected areas.
Wow.
2 additions. We actually crammed 8 CNCs in there, where the production floor space was really only 1,500 square feet. So
that was a great video. I mean, what you pulled off in there is, I mean, it's part of the story.
Yeah. And probably when we did that video, well, we might have had 8 employees or something. We finished out our tenure over there with 15 or 16 employees.
Wow.
So it was driveway was all the way out to the road of cars, and
it's the stuff no one tells you about. Like, you only have one bathroom, or the sink can't handle that, or the parking. Yeah,
it's fun to think back over everything. My CPA, he's 70-some years old, retired COO, and the first time he started working for me, he actually had to go behind the shop to go to the bathroom in the ditch. We didn't even have a bathroom back then, so for people to see it grow through that whole process is pretty cool. Yeah. I'm in it every day, so I don't kind of notice it, but to get a second perspective from somebody that's only in there every couple weeks.
It's incredible, Jon. It really is. I mean, obviously you have a product that sells. That's what feeds the beast.
Very fortunate there.
But so we're filming this March 2021. When did you make the call to the architect on a building?
The process started probably 2 years ago, just looking for land. We had 2 requirements for our land. We needed 3-phase, and we wanted to be able to shoot some distance. We were looking for 1,000 yards, but we were willing to compromise. Unfortunately, those 2 things don't normally go hand in hand, having 3-phase and a bunch of area. So it was a tough find. So we found the property. We've got 75 acres here. It's a retired sand mine, so there's a 35-acre lake on the property. We bought that in, I want to say, July 2019. And right away, as soon as that, we started working with the builder, designing the building, all that stuff. We broke ground August 2020.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, so 6 months, 8 months to build a building?
Yeah, they put it up very quick. We're very fortunate. Boyer's Construction, who did the building, they knew we needed a building bad, and they worked with us on getting it knocked out quick. So I wouldn't change anything about how I did it, because it was a great learning experience for how to do things. All of the things that annoyed us at our old shop, we were able to fix because they already annoyed us. If we were going right into building a new building, we wouldn't have had those learning experiences. So
we came up about a month ago and did some really cool footage with Jon, talking about the entrepreneurship side of when to quit your job and more details about some of the machinery purchases and so forth. And the first thing I thought when I walked in here was, dude, you're out of space. You've been in here for like a month and you're out of space.
Yeah, that was unintended. When we designed the building, we designed it way over what we thought we would need.
Got it.
I had a CAD 3D model layout of 20, at that time, Haas machines, just scattered around to see what can we fit in this place. And it's like, okay, no way we're going to have this many machines in the next 5 years. So we'll build the building to expand. This wall can come out, but it wasn't supposed to happen in the first year. I mean, we could be potentially breaking ground on an addition the same year we moved into the the new building, which is pretty scary to think about. But that's good problems.
Part of that's part of what, I mean, I hate to use the word anxiety, but when whether you're buying a single machine or a tool or a building, it's like you get scared about what you don't know. And like the fact that I believe that wall just will get knocked out and you build, like, that's a conversation you want to have with your builder at the beginning of the build, not at the end. Even if you don't think you're gonna, because it didn't really, I don't think it really probably
it doesn't cost much. Any extra to have an expandable end wall. So if you've got the space to go out, I know that's a lot of the problem. Like the old shop, there was just no more room to go. So you can't always have an expandable end wall because you don't have the property. But if you've got it, it might cost an extra couple $1,000 on the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Well worth it. So.
What are we looking at?
Over here we got the lathe area, row of Haas machines that existed over at the old shop, 2 DS30Ys and the ST20Y. All the DMG Mori stuff is new additions here before the machine was ever actually finished or we had occupancy or anything. We were dropping these machines. DMG NTX 1000 here, mill turn.
I mean, when I was here a year ago, awesome story. Like, I loved how you did the fixturing and the process behind it and the tooling and tool numbers, but like, you went from a bunch of Haas's to like a DMG Mori, multitasking, and then, I mean, the rest of the shop. This is insane.
Yeah. When I was on the Mori buying spree, this was kind of a last minute decision. This is a part that we've always I don't want to say outsourced, locally outsourced, because we've never had the capacity to be able to do it. We simply couldn't keep up with the demand, so we never bothered trying to. So. Oh,
you knew you couldn't make it at your shop even if you wanted to.
Yeah.
It's an old
I mean, if that was all we were making, maybe, but we've got a pretty diverse product line, and we sell a lot of everything. So. That's why this machine's probably the last one to get commissioned, because we didn't actually need it running right away, and it's kind of the most scary. So Marcus here's getting it dialed in on some aluminum just to get the program proofed out, kind of learn the ins and outs. So this machine has the upper head, 5-axis milling head, as well as a lower turret. So you can get a lot of stuff going on at one time in here. Got the 76 tool Capto C5 tool changer. The turret's a 10 station live milling, no Y-axis, but live milling on it. Obviously sub spindle and the workpiece unloader, which we might get a view of here in a minute.
Sometimes it's hard to understand why or when you'd want a multitasking machine or this style of a V-axis head machine, and like this is perfect. Like you think about, you got turn features, ID, OD, but then you've got this 5-axis head that can tilt and orient, come in here and cut these grooves, you can grab it to the sub spindle, like it screams this machine.
This part was made for a mill turn, so.
And this is aluminum just because you're proving it out?
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah, we'll never make them actually out of aluminum.
Cool.
If you want to get in here now, we've got some 5-axis chamfering going on here.
That is awesome. You can, so there's obviously a turning turret, but the spindle head can also hold Capto-oriented turning tools?
Correct, yeah. So in a minute here, after the chamfering of the ports, we're going to grab a Sandvik Y-axis parting blade, do the handoff and part it off. So we could do just an X-axis part off on the turret. The hard part is there's not great clearance between the turret housing and the sub spindle.
Got it.
So you'd probably need a pretty tall setup to make it happen.
Well, that's what's great about that Y-axis parting is you can have a 60, 80 millimeter blade length, and it seems to just go.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to care how much hangout you've got. Eventually we'll be able to do things like pinch turning where you've got the upper and the lower working on the main at the same time.
That's really cool.
And then the goal is that so when the part gets passed off to the sub spindle.
Look at that. John, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that a milling spindle can hold a tool like that, so offset, rigid enough. But been pretty impressed with the Capto system in general, how rigid and repeatable it is.
My God. It's amazing that the spindle motor is in that relatively small head.
Yeah.
It's so strange to think that blade is coming toward us right now. It's not parting up and down, it's parting back to front.
Yep. When you look at the insert, you never really know which way you should spin the spindle.
Look at that.
Turning on the sub side with the turret, once it's all dialed in, it could still be milling on the main while that turning work is being done in the sub spindle.
That's incredible.
But,
oh, it does get ejected, but it gets picked up.
Yeah, it gets grabbed by an arm. We're going to come over and engrave the caliber and the reference line on there.
Are you running this through Camp-Lee?
No, this is Mastercam.
Mastercam, okay,
Yeah.
got it.
It's not a totally balanced part, but there's definitely some things we can do at the same time to really maximize the lower turret / upper head combination.
And the Royal vibratory thing, once it gets lifted up, the idea is that it moves the parts out of the way?
Yeah, it'll accumulate them. The NTX just came with a little box to catch parts, but we intend to run this machine lights out.
Got it.
So we might spit out 50 to 100 muzzle brakes overnight, so we needed a way to accumulate them without getting all scratched up. So this will get raised up, and
so yeah, it doesn't have to drop them into a bin. It's just gonna, it's just literally gonna move up into this area here.
Yep. Yeah, they get kind of spiraled around, and you can also keep them in somewhat order, so they'll end up like this just from centripetal force.
Yeah.
So they'll be somewhat in order. So if you find a bad one here, you know everything behind it is bad. There's a lot of field install options on this machine because it was an in-stock machine. So Mori service tech is here right now installing our auto presetter. So the challenge with a lower turret machine is how do you touch off tools? Now this isn't something that necessarily we needed because we're doing a bunch of insert changes or anything, but just part of the auto presetter package. So right now it's got a manual plug-in probe arm for touching off tools. So you'd actually plug something in here to touch it off. So nothing you can do in process. Same with the sub spindle. What they're installing right now will go on this panel. There'll be like a little jack-in-the-box square stylus that'll pop out. That's how you touch off the milling head. Obviously the turret can't reach up there, so the way to touch off tools in the turret, this goes in the tool changer. It actually grabs this, I don't know, 20-pound tool, holds it up in the milling head. The milling head parks in a specified position, and then you can touch off your turning tools with this. So
that's amazing. Did you know that you were going to have the lathes together? Was that deliberate?
Yeah, spent a lot of time in CAD kind of laying everything out how we wanted it. It's still really hard, I'm sure, as you know, to get a feel for how you're going to be able to organize and walk through just in CAD, but we wanted basically kind of a lathe area and a mill area. We spaced these things out a lot more than we had previously. I think there's 12 feet between them or something because we wanted to be able to put cabinets in between for tooling and just to set finished parts on for checking and all that.
It's great. It doesn't feel like when you're pulling a chip in through, it doesn't feel like someone's got to back up against the machine. But it doesn't
this
feel
is probably the most cramped area that we're standing in right now in the shop. So especially with the roto rack here now. But there's still plenty of room to move around. Now the downside of that is you're just using up floor space, but I guess if you're in Europe, this isn't a good video to watch where floor space is a premium. But
and it's so interesting because like that machine looks big, but then it seems small, and like we'll see the Grob later, and that machine to me is an awesomely huge machine, but it's not. It's just not that.
I think this building kind of skews your perspective of how big things are. A 12-foot tall flag almost looks kind of small sitting up there because 27-foot tall ceilings. So,
what's going on the ST and the DS?
Mid pick off, maybe insert change on knobs for the
zero knob.
Yeah,
awesome.
Some people call them the trailer hitch balls. That's what everybody has started referring to them as. So
awesome.
These are 6061 2-inch diameter bar. I think these are probably getting hand unloaded just to keep them from getting scratched up coming out of the parts catcher. The Haas machines right now tend to get changed over more often. We've started to kind of dedicate the new machines to a product. So the one NLX is running all of the collars for the muzzle brake, so all the different sizes, but it's a super high volume item. We can keep the same tools in there.
But these you had I don't think I saw that at the tour, but the DS30s you had.
Yeah, this was probably after that. We had the 2 DS30s. Maybe only one at that time.
No, you did 2.
We did have 2.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty sure.
So these, I believe we're running the...
Oh, the linkage
we're doing the ram for the Zero.
Got it.
So the turning work, these are Thompson shafts. So this is 62 Rockwell.
Holy cow.
Case hardened, about 100 thou thick case on there. So almost everything we're doing is through the hard stuff.
You're not touching the OD here though. You're just
nope.
that and that end.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah, and then they, see later, they go into the UMC.
Got it.
To get all the mill features done on them.
Fixture grabs, like just soft jaws like this?
Yep. Yeah, we've got an indication point that touches off here. These eventually might get moved over to the NTX.
The one and done.
If we can get the, you can buy this Thompson shaft in however long you want. What was most needed for this is the diametrical tolerance.
Yeah.
These are plus or minus 1/10, I think, is what they hold on these. And then the surface finish. So finding that tight of tolerance material is not super easy.
You have stuff stainless ground.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's still challenging to find that tight in long bars.
Right.
So our goal is to be able to load 6-foot bars up into the NTX and actually cut them into pieces instead of right now we have to hand load them into the lathe. So
one of the, and I'm so grateful that Jon is so open about sharing this story, but like sometimes it's the stuff that isn't the most exciting. It's not the NTX machine. It's just like PVC, vertical PVC tubes, looks like little missile silos.
Yeah.
And then, you know, these wood crates with the metal cleats. It's as simple as it could be, but from getting parts made, not getting them damaged, keeping them safe, having them organized, counting the volume, like it makes so much sense.
We'd never thought about any of this stuff going into it. It was all, once we got into production, it was like, all right, so we're making 50 Zero bodies a week. How do we get these things to anodizing safely when it's something that weighs 22 pounds when it's completed? So,
well, and how does the anodizer treat them? I found that the nicer your packaging is, the better you're going to help the other party, that you don't control what
they
ship
don't
they're
care
running
as much about your product. So if you ship it to them in a box just wrapped up in foam, they're going to ship it back totally different. So having almost like a poke yoke type deal where they can only put the thing back in one way.
Yeah. Are they both 4 gauges?
Borematic Mitutoyo here.
Just for the knob of a Zero?
We have a...
Strikes me as overkill.
I don't know if there's anything overkill about the Zero. So we've got a needle bearing dropping down into the bottom here.
No kidding. Oh, that's why it was spin so freely.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Kind of unique to the Zero in the fact that we've got a ball knob that can rotate. Most of them are fixed. We found it tends to wear on your hand and you get callous. So this was probably 2 days worth of design work in itself. Just figuring out how to get bearings in this, have it tight, no slop, all that. So
so that gets threaded. This part has another op to go, or?
Yeah, so this part's done. This is TGP because this moves up and down in the handle, we'll show later. But
what did you call it?
TGP stock, turn ground polish.
Got it.
So 3/4 just comes in. We don't touch the OD. We just do this. Chamfer the end. So this gets a bearing pressed onto the one end. Here, needle bearing here, and a nut holds this on.
Interesting.
And then there's actually a set screw here, and that's how we get it into the knob. Is you tighten the set screw against the nut so you can turn it on, and then you loosen the set screw and it rotates free. So
that's pretty.
That's why the precision for the knob is that we're putting bearings down in here. So.
You like the these are? Did you have these at the old shop?
We did not. No. Yeah, we didn't have room for the. I just keep calling them Hippo hoppers because that's the only brand name I really know. We got these from our scrap. I don't know what to call them, supplier or whatever. They provided us with the hoppers, the bins outside and everything.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
How much scrap are you generating?
We've got a 40-yard dumpster out there that's, I want to say, about half full, and we've been running for maybe a month. So we were generating, I want to say, 7,000 pounds a week, something like that.
You sort it, aluminum and steel, or
we
further
do, yeah.
than that? Okay.
Yeah, we've got an aluminum bin and a steel bin.
Holy
at
cow.
the old shop we had like 4x4x3 square
the Gaylord
things we'd fill up, and then we have a flatbed trailer. We'd have to truck it to the scrapyard ourselves. Towards the end, we were going once a week, and I want to say the tear weight was around 11,000 pounds, minus the bins themselves.
So what's the process? Like, does the guy who's running or girl, whoever's running the machine, wheel that down and pick up a new one, and then somebody else fork dump it, or?
Yeah, so we tried to make them as big as possible so it's not really happening through the day.
Okay.
Some of the lathes maybe fill up a bin just because of the stringy chips. There's a lot more volume than there is weight.
Got it.
For the most part, though, it's just a once a day in the morning thing. So at the end of the day, we'll line them all up, and then the guy that gets here at 6 o'clock, he runs them all out and dumps them. That way we've only got one guy running the forklift. They're not the easiest things in the world to dump, so.
Do they push around even when they fill okay?
Yeah, they've got the polyurethane casters on them. Wanted to protect our nice epoxy floor. So
how thick's the floor?
We've got 8 inches in the machine shop area.
Yeah, that's great.
And a bunch of rebar in it. So epoxy coated. It's what they call a full flake epoxy floor. So there's epoxy base coat, a totally covered layer of flake, and then 3 coats of urethane on top. So far it's proven to be.
It looks great. It feels. It's not too slippery either.
Yep.
Sometimes you see it.
You get some spots are a little bit slicker than others where the urethane pooled up and it doesn't have the flake texture. And if that gets wet, it gets slippery. But for the most part, pretty good.
It's so funny to see a little Capto. Like I didn't really understand what Capto static tools were until you see them, and then you realize this replaces your whole stick tool.
Yeah.
This funny looking thing.
Yeah, this is a C4. They're amazing how rigid they are versus a stick tool. You've really got nothing that can move.
Yeah, it doesn't look strong to me.
The other great advantage to them is that they're all built-in coolant.
Yeah, that's right.
I know we spent a lot of time, we would run all through coolant stick tools, but plumbing those things is a nightmare.
You sent me that Excel file of like all the parts you need to buy to convert and adapt and GSP to whatever. We saw these first, for me firsthand, when we did the tour over in the Netherlands with Lawrence, and they use static Capto because they don't want the machine down to swap inserts out. And this means you can take the time to inspect an insert to make sure it's seated correctly, put never sees on the threads if you want. Like it just makes sense. You just 10 seconds in and out, and then second one offline.
I don't know what they say they repeat, even between 2 different holders, the repeatability is microns. So, we've got, especially for the roughing stuff, we've got spares, like the CNMGs, we keep always 2 of them, just like you said, so we're changing inserts offline. We've got kind of a mix of C4 and C5 in the lathes and the NLXs.
Okay. Still, it's so funny seeing a stick tool like that, grooving tool.
And what we haven't played with yet is, and it's more mill turn related than turning center, but they say that you can stack what I think 2 Capto extensions on each other, something before you ever even notice that there's a connection there.
Incredible. So, just steel, not even the D-vibe bars.
Yeah, like if you wanted to run, say, this tool in a mill turn, you've got this giant spindle here, you might not have enough reach, so what you do is you just have a C5 to C5 extension that makes this tool longer, but as far as rigidity is concerned, it's one piece because the Capto connection is so strong. So we got an NLX 2500 SY here, sub spindle, Y-axis live milling. We've got a LNS Servo 80 bar feeder on here.
I mean, it's a single turret, dual spindle lathe, so similar to what you had,
Yep.
Boxway,
Boxway.
and then obviously DMG Mori.
Almost identical as the DS30Y as far as machining envelope, Z travel. The big difference is you don't have as much B travel in the NLX as you do in a DS. So these machines are aware of a few things. There's a M code during part, or as soon as you're finished parting, you can fire. It changes the RPM of the spindles slightly to determine whether the part has actually been cut off.
So cool.
So that's
Just
one
easy.
aspect. Yeah, it's a super simple thing you would think, but that's just something, and it's caught us a few times. I mean, we've already lost some parting inserts.
Oh, really?
In here, and it just alarms out the machine, and we save who knows how many tools. Part ejection detection. So when the sub spindle comes and lets go of the part in the parts catcher, it's a pneumatic cylinder that pushes the part out instead of being mechanical. It's spring driven. So when that piston reaches the end of its travel, there's I guess an air porthole that allows pressure to escape. So it looks for that pressure drop in the air signal to know that the part ejector has reached its full stroke.
Got it. So it has to have evacuated the part.
Yeah, you could still theoretically have a part stuck. If a part gets stuck on your ejector end effector, let's call it, it could retract back in, and you might not know it. But that just comes with good end design for the ejector. And then the last thing is chucking detection. If you don't have a part in your sub spindle, it knows that.
Just from the pressure?
Yeah, there's, I want to say, proc switches on the actuator, so it knows where it's at in its stroke.
How
so if
far
it reaches
the draw
full
to.
stroke,
Interesting.
it knows that there must not be a part in the chuck. So
I know you had the collar chucks on the other machines. Is that the common choice for this as well? Like, are there different options when you move into DMG?
They all work equally well. I mean, HAIMER would be another choice as far as collar chucks. Maybe a little bit. They're a little bit more expensive. I know whenever they sell a German machine, DMG always specs HAIMER. But for us, the Royal have been everything we need them to be. The great thing, at least on these, the main spindle is a one-piece deal, where what we're used to is you have an adapter plate, A26 to Royal's bolt pattern. This chuck is actually straight A26 to the chuck. So it's a one-piece assembly.
Is it more rigid or just takes up less Z?
More rigid. You don't have basically two tapered connections together and two sets of bolts holding it together.
Having sat next to the machines for a while, I mean, they're silent.
Dead silent, yeah.
Silent. And
might have been the biggest selling point is the integral spindle motor.
But even when they're in the cut, I mean, you can just tell how beefy these things are.
Yeah.
Next to like watching fixturing, the second coolest thing I think is looking at how you tool up a lathe turret. You got the dual blocks, right? Actually, I saw triple.
Yeah, so we've got quad Y-axis C4 OD tools here. We've got two blocks. So the idea here is we can always keep our rougher, our finisher, a groover, and a threader set up at all times. And then on the sub side, we don't need quite as many tools, but we could do the same thing.
It's amazing that they look so close, but really when one's in the cut, the other one has plenty of clearance.
Yeah, there's 2 inches of clearance between it's 50 millimeter offset between the center lines of the tools. So you could work with almost 4-inch material without any interference. So we've got a C5 opposing static block here that we usually run our insert drills and stuff in. Right now we've got a anti-vibe Sandvik bar in here.
You like those?
Yeah, the thing, I mean, it's silent just like they call them.
It's amazing.
I mean, it's hanging out, 5 inches there, and dead silent and repeatable.
Yeah.
So we've got a MD tool here, triple block with the Sandvik Easy Fix system in it. So we've got this is another thing that's good to keep set up all the time. We've got a 3/8 carbide boring bar, grooving, and threading. We do a lot of small ID work, so We keep kind of the smallest bar
Yeah.
we can get away with set up at all the time. And then sub-facing as well, we've got a 5/16, and we've got a couple more options there.
Do the blocks on the turret stay on there? Meaning if you change parts, you don't have to pull any blocks off.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah. The goal, especially with a lot of the multi-station blocks, was not necessarily to fit a ton of tools, but to always have some open spaces.
Yeah.
In case we have a kind of an odd job that we got to throw a block in, we're not having to remove stuff.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
can
yeah.
always keep it set up. So we've got a couple Capto driven tools on there, like two radials, 2 axials, C4 connection on those as well.
Got it.
I think the live milling is really where the Capto makes sense in a lathe.
They don't make quad lives though like that, do they? Has to be on center.
MD tool does, but
Really?
I don't think Capto.
Oh, okay.
It'd be ER. The MD has like the 1, 2, 3,
Oh, yeah. The
4, 5,
infamous
6.
photo.
Yeah,
The-
yeah,
Right.
with 75
Right.
tools on a turret
That's
or something.
funny. Like, any like surprises or things? I don't. Not that you don't like, but like you didn't realize whether it's stepping up or.
I think there was a learning curve on the programming side. The number of M codes that these machines have is crazy, so just having a dialed-in post that can handle all that stuff. I haven't been super involved in the lathe stuff, just trying to commission the mills.
Yeah.
Yeah, the conveyor was another thing that was very important to me. It's something that we kind of fought when you're trying to run, let's say, lights out with a static bin that can only hold so many parts becomes an issue. So getting them out of the machine safely, repeatably, and then traversing them into a bin here that'll catch them
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
is a pretty big deal for us. So as far as peripherals go, we've got a 1000 PSI ChipBLASTER variable volume programmable pressure. So that'll flow 8 gallons a minute. You can program 4 different steps of pressure. So we've got it set for 250, 5, 750, and 1000.
You want lower pressure on some tools? Like is it 1000?
Yeah, just some tools you don't really need it.
Okay.
So there's no point. I think probably tend to go through more coolant when you're running high pressure because you're sucking it up with the mist collector. The MistBLASTERs seem to do a pretty good job of collecting that coolant and then putting it back down into the tank. They do a great job of keeping mist out of the shop, I'll say that.
Yeah.
The HEPA filters on top. So
1000 PSI probably runs the electric meter. I mean,
yeah, I would assume so, yeah.
probably actually a legitimate pump.
And I think the big selling point to me for the variable volume is if you've got a small diameter tool that would run 1000 PSI at 2 gallons a minute, but if you're always pumping 8 gallons a minute through it, you're creating a lot of heat because that extra flow's got to go somewhere, and it goes through a bypass valve.
Oh,
those bypass valves generate a lot of heat.
So it's, I think I missed you saying it, it's variable PSI and flow rate.
Flow rate, yeah.
That's amazing, yeah.
It's a variable frequency drive on the pump motor, so it'll run at 20 hertz or 80 hertz. So
It's its own machine.
Yeah.
Wait till you get to the NHX tool changer.
Yeah, no kidding. And the coolant pump over there, that one's a monster.
Like you mentioned, you're not super involved. When did you say, nope, I'm hiring a guy, I don't know what's going on here, that's okay?
That happened, it was probably shortly after our last video. Okay. I was doing all the lathe and mill programming and everything, and still enjoy it, nothing like that, but I mean, we've got 14 machines now, so I just knew there was no possible way I was going to keep up with all of them at the same time. So the lathe is, to me, the most involved as far as setups go, and just having somebody on it full time where they're dialed in on it, that was a big deal for me. So got a great lathe setup guy, programmer. It's priceless.
I always like to say, like being a surgeon, like there's no other business obligations, responsibilities, like you just get to solely focus on that.
Yeah, and I caught myself towards the end crashing machines probably more than I should, because I'd be in the middle of doing something, I get pulled away, something either business related or whatever, I come back and I forget what I was doing, and offset a tool the wrong way or whatever.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, I'll never fully get away from it. I mean, it's what I really enjoy about all this.
Some deep questions there about, you know, the whole, do you own your business or does your business own you? If you don't, you get a Grob or a horizontal and you don't get to play with it.
Yeah,
there's
no fun in that.
Right.
I mean, buying the machines is fun, but playing with them is also fun. So we got another identical NLX here. There's also a third and a fourth.
Serious?
On the way. So a third that's 100% identical. The fourth has a few options that they don't really stock. So a hollow sub spindle.
Oh.
And then it's going to be automation ready. So
cool.
We'll put a robot on that guy.
Barrel work? Or what's with the hollow sub?
We've got some like the Maverick as we blow through the part, and we're going to end up flooding the, keeping the chips out of the chuck area is a big concern, especially automation wise. So it's a hollow sub and it's flooded.
Cool.
So you can pump coolant through the part and the chuck.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Where to next? Well, you didn't have the UMC when we were touring last time.
Yeah, we added that early 2020. It's kind of a funny story. I mean, I was wanted a 5-axis, but we didn't have any parts that justified a 5-axis. So truthfully, that's where the Zero was born, was I wanted to design a part that needed a 5-axis just for an excuse to buy the 5-axis. So that got a little out of control.
That story ended well.
Yeah. Didn't really expect it to do that well. And the UMC, man, it pumped out great parts from the beginning. We've got the HSK 63 spindle on it, and the repeatability it's off the charts compared to Cat 40 single contact. So the only things that didn't work well for us with the UMC was once we got into full production, just chip management.
There's a pretty well documented concern about how the chips overflow, I think, and
Yeah.
I think they're fixing it or something.
Yeah, they've got some better conveyor options for it now, and we still want to add a wash down to it to try to help get the chips down in there, but I mean, we generate probably in zero body production a yard of chips a day.
It's incredible.
So
yeah,
it's a lot of chips going away that we got to take care of.
Oh, you're running those
we're
linkages right now?
The rams in there.
Yeah.
So this we hold in a orange Delta 5
Okay.
I like the fact that it had a fixed jaw, so we could be ultra repeatable on center line.
Because that matters.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it does on the ram. I'm thinking of the handle.
Yeah, because we need everything
You do want it line.
on center with the ram, but we can come around and see what's going on the inside while he's changing inserts.
Oh wow, it's way smaller than I mean, I only have a 750. It's totally different feel.
Very compact machine. The other challenge with this Thompson shaft 62 Rockwell is the milling side is kind of a pain. You know, we face mill this with an Iskar Octamill. That way we get 16 cutting edges out of one insert. That's basically all hard the whole way, so pretty rough on inserts.
Right. Looks great, I gotta say. I mean,
yeah.
Feels good.
Yeah, exactly. And then once we get through, we're in the soft stuff, so we drill and ream this hole. But this hole here is the most challenging. And that's why we do it in the UMC for the 5-axis.
So how do you drill at an angle on round like that?
This is actually interpolated.
It is.
Yeah, we're using a helical, I think a 5 flute, not a high feed, just a regular end mill.
Yeah.
So we just ramp down through the hard stuff and to get us a flat, and then we go the rest of the way with a 3 flute drill.
Got it. Wow. Yeah, that's a pretty long length to diameter ratio.
Yeah.
At an angle.
Yeah, that one was a challenge to get worked out, but they run pretty well, pretty repeatable now. I think maybe like 25 parts between insert changes or end mill changes.
It's not bad. You were running, when we were up here last time, you had that little A2 bushing on here too that looked pretty good for coming off of it was this guy, I think.
Oh, yeah. The wedge for the.
That's
and we'll continue to run both the steel parts required for the Zero on the UMC.
You're leaving the aluminum for the Grob?
Yeah. One of the nice things about the Haas conveyors is it's all contained in the conveyor, so material changeover is pretty quick.
Got it.
On these bigger, higher productive machines, your conveyor is just a coolant cavity that just gets scraped out.
Got it.
And it doesn't scrape every ounce of it out. So we got the 50 tool option on this one. Like I said, HSK 63. Right now the carousel's empty because we moved all the tools over to the Grob.
I've heard people ask, is it the right way to spend money if you're getting a UMC? Nothing wrong with UMC. It's just a question, do you really want to put an HSK spindle on it? And your answer is unequivocal yes.
I think if I bought any Haas again right now, VF2, whatever, it would have an HSK
No
spindle.
kidding.
HSK it's got me sold.
Really?
I mean, this machine, the CMX, has a dual contact Cat 40.
Yeah, the
rigid,
big plus, right?
Big plus, yeah.
You think HSK is better?
Better, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I don't know if it was Lindex that told me, and as an engineer, it makes sense. The ability to control a steep taper like a Cat 40, the datum point, and that face, getting dual contact on both of those surfaces, it's possible, but once you start growing thermally and everything, you lose it. Where with HSK,
yeah, I mean, you're
the big selling point is the faster you go, the more rigid it gets.
Right. There's like a form of deformation that happens to give you that steeper, not steeper, shallow, I guess.
Shallower.
Yeah, angle. It's strange to think about as a flexible member,
Yeah, so these are gripped on the kind of bald detents. Pull it out here. So the faster you spin this, the centripetal force actually forces it into the.
But this it's also dual contact, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and you remain dual contact the whole time, which is what makes it so rigid.
Awkward question. Have you had problems with chips on either machine, dual contact?
We have on the UMC.
Okay.
And that's one thing I'm working with them to try to resolve is protecting the tool change area. Both the magazine and the arm, because chips will get up in there, get on the face. Now, HSK does a good job, or their spindle does a good job of detecting it for the most part. So if there's a big chip in there, it'll air out and say not clamped, and it won't run. But if you get a, I don't know, let's say a 3 thou thick chip in there, it'll smash it. It'll go on with its business, but very out of balance. And you can feel it in the floor as soon as it spins up a tool that's got a chip on it.
Do you worry about damaging the drive dogs, or not, I guess not drive dogs, but the spindle or the spindle face?
Yeah, it'd probably be mostly just the vibration of the, but it also scraps parts. So that's the other bad thing.
Has this been good on dual contact?
Yeah, so far. We haven't used it a lot, and we're not doing anything super heavy with it right now, but we've done some pretty heavy roughing that I feel like I can notice the difference between regular Cat 40. But yeah, as soon as I got the UMC with the HSK, I knew I was doing things that I couldn't do in the VF4 or VF2, even though theoretically the VF4 should be a more rigid machine than the 500.
Well, that's what I've heard is on 5-axis, it's going to be more likely you need 6, 7, 8 inches of gauge length, and HSK is going to run circles around a traditional Cat 40 there.
Yeah, it doesn't really care about long tools,
So
got the CMX 1100 here. This was kind of an experiment. We didn't necessarily need another vertical because we were adding the horizontal and all this stuff, but the thing that's kind of bothered me about the other verticals is where the chips go. They just build up in the machines. This one's cool, the kinematic. The X goes side to side, there's no Y on the table. So your Y is in the head. That way they can put this slanted way covers in here and it all just drops right into the conveyor. Now it's still a vertical in the sense that keeping chips off the table is kind of impossible. but getting chips into the hopper is a lot better. And even just the second op on the zero in here, I mean, we're cutting off this whole roughly half-inch thick flange on there. It generates a lot of big chips.
Yeah.
So not having to clean out machines several times during the day was the decision here.
So that's really all this is for right now. And I love the 3D printed fixture.
Yeah, we've got basically keeping the body level in there.
Yeah. How is the 3D printed part of that arrested or held in place?
Basically, you just push it this way. It's mostly sitting on this shelf here, so as long as it's sitting on that shelf, it's fine.
Got it.
We could probably make it to fill this whole area here.
Yeah,
that was just the first revision of it, and it's been doing a great job. So we've got they call it DDRT rotary in here, direct drive rotary. Haven't used it yet. We've got it all decked out with the 5th axis rock block, so we can run all the rotary tombstones that we've always run in our vertical.
Well, that's what's funny. That was like a lot of fun toys today. But that was probably one of the biggest takeaways from the last tour was how much of the tombstone stuff you're doing. Are you still doing that?
Yep.
Can we go look?
Yeah.
For fun?
Well,
to reminisce?
Stay with the verticals.
What is this?
This is our Ingersoll-Rand torque driver.
Okay.
So.
Oh, digital torque wrench.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, presettable for, you can have, I don't know how many different programs, maybe 10 different programs in it with preset torque values.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
We got to a point where we were wanting to control the process a little bit better, prevent parts from getting chucked out because they weren't torqued enough. The big thing that we noticed with this was time savings. I mean, we were doing everything with a T-handle. And Drew did a time study one day running it with a T-handle versus this, and I think we were able to run a fixture 2 or 3 more times during the day.
Holy cow.
Just because of this, because of the speed. And it's repeatable torque.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's amazing. I mean, these are real investments.
Yeah.
That's cool.
This was I think our first purchase, and the big thing that these guys are protective of, because they're usually used in the automotive industry, is operator comfort. So you think 15 foot-pounds doesn't seem like a lot, but if you're not doing it with either like an impact driver or something like this, it's a lot of torque on your hands, so you can't really do it with it. It'd be like just a regular drill with the chuck or the clutch off, and your drill stops and it flips around. That's kind of what's going on. So that's the reason this thing's so long, is you can control that torque.
Got it.
But we've got one over there, we'll see on the horizontal later, that goes about it a different way. Both of these machines are running 1 at a time fixtures. Too heavy to be able to take out and have a secondary fixture.
Got it.
This part is actually kind of a 4-axis part where we need access to at least 3 of the sides at once, so we're able to finish these parts up in basically one operation. They just move from an op 1 spot to an op 2 and they're done.
Yeah, you're pulling parts off every cycle.
Yeah.
Got it.
And we can just pack a lot more of them on the rotary fixtures. Where these things become really productive to me is when, with the rock lock or laying system, whatever it might be, is having multiple tombstones.
Yeah.
Like over here we've got 2.
Oh, the funnel fixture.
Funnel fixtures that we talked about last time.
Right.
These are still on the heavy side with material on them.
Yeah.
But they're light enough that we can swap them out almost like I kept calling it a poor man's horizontal.
Right.
So you're changing parts offline. Your spindle's only down for 30 seconds while you change these things out.
It's not just that, it's that you don't feel like you're on the clock trying to rush through a part setup.
Yeah, you can get from that 30 to 50% spindle uptime up to closer to 80, 90 if you have the ability for light enough weight parts to move them out like that. So,
do these get? Do you treat each of these 4 as different, separately probed surfaces, so that if there are irregularities along the face, you don't worry about it?
This part, we actually, on the second op, we probed the bore.
Got it.
That way all of our chamfers line up and everything. These Mighty Bite ID clamps do a good job of holding it on center, but if it's not perfectly well seated in there or something, it gets some angle to it and you can really notice it with the chamfer. So op 1 we don't really care about, we just send it. And we do as many as we can like this with dual, but like I said, some of them are just too big and cumbersome to move in and out. And then we've got a little turntable here that we put the...
I love it.
I don't know if this
that's
was
super cool.
in the video last time. So when we're changing parts out, we put it on here, and then you can just index it to different positions.
And this is another torque. Yeah, look at that. Woo. That's slick.
Yeah, that's on a flex arm.
Oh, that's for this. Look at that. Oh, wow. That's really nice.
So this thing will actually count all your fasteners.
Oh my God.
So if you program in, say, funnels, it knows there's 12 screws that it needs to tighten. If you don't tighten all 12 screws, the screen will be red and you know that you've got a clamp loose. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. It's a big investment, but when you start to think about if we chuck one of these parts, we're gonna lose at least probably a ½ inch rougher that costs 90 bucks. When it chucks that part, it's gonna knock the rotary out. So we might spend 2 or 3 hours redialing in that rotary. I mean, the tool is kind of
scrap the other parts because you don't know if they're what stage they're in, or wow.
So it's probably a long game payoff, but I think it's there at least on the just using some kind of controlled torque gun.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
If you needed to make 5 times more of this or 10 times more, what's that look like?
I think we're there. We just ran 1,000 of those last week. Well, finished up 1,000 of them.
Is there a reason this machine's over here?
What's over here? We do still build rifles, but we haven't gotten ramped back up from the move. Right now we're standing in kind of the gunsmith cage, which originally we designed this to be literally in a cage. That way, if we had serialized stuff sitting out, we could just leave it instead of having to always lock it up. We could just have this fully enclosed. I think we're going to go a different way just so this doesn't actually feel like a prison over here, but that's the idea with the VF4 is just transition.
The question is, do you want to be locked in the prison or locked outside the prison?
Yeah, exactly. We want to dedicate this to all of our CNC gunsmithing work, barrel fluting, engraving, all the stuff that we do on the mills. That's why this one's sitting over here, but as you can see, it's still running production.
So I mean, some MBA student would tell you should just shut that down, right? It's not as profitable, as scalable, but
yeah, I don't know.
You want to do it?
Maybe 2% of our revenue right now, but it keeps us connected to the community is the big thing. Financially, it would make more sense just to shut it down, but we want to keep it going. We think there's room for it to grow. We just need to be able to dedicate some more time to it. The hardest part about it versus just being a machine shop is finding people that can do this stuff, because it's a little bit more involved than changing parts on the
gunsmithing or
yeah, the gunsmithing side of things. So like running barrels in the TL and doing barrel fluting. There's a lot of, I wrote the programs to be very versatile. So like one barrel fluting program can do any number of twists right in there, but it takes very good attention to detail when you're going through and editing that program. So we've got those people. Unfortunately, they're being tied up over in the production area. So it's just a matter of we need to grow more, get some more people. I mean, we'll probably have 3 or 4 more employees in here. I think we're at 21 right now. We'll break 25 by summer, I would assume. So
it's awesome.
We've been running pretty lean because we had to. We simply didn't have the space. So now we can kind of fill in to the new shop.
I interrupted you a minute ago. We were talking about if you make those funnels at a multiple higher volume, what's that look like?
Probably looks like the horizontal.
The one you already have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So if we...
So more of the same style fixture, just on a bigger tombstone?
Yeah, maybe instead of 4 funnels at a time, we can run 30 or something on one tombstone.
And lights out.
And lights out.
Right.
leave for the day and it can make more. So.
Have you thought about doing more like little drill tap machines that are product specific, material specific, that just run one thing, or maybe even robots on them or something?
We did. We went through a phase. We got that DT-1, and we can walk over to that and take a look. It's actually Justin, director of operations, his favorite machine. It takes up the least amount of space, and it's just lightning fast. We added it roughly the same time as the UMC.
Got it.
If you're making small parts, not taking off a ton of material, no heavy cuts, I would recommend this machine 1,000 times.
Really?
This thing, the same program we ran on that VF2, we pulled off and put on here. It was 48 minutes on the VF2, 32 on the DT without changing a single feed rate.
Like the same G code?
Same, just off the USB into the DT. And
what is that? Tool changes or
yeah,
travel?
so pretty much everything is working in this thing's favor as far as speed. Same RPM spindle, 15,000 on both, but this thing will ramp up to 15,000 in no time. So there's that. You've got rapid speed. I think this is 2,400 inches a minute versus 1,200 on a VF. But the bigger thing there is acceleration. This one accelerates at 1G. I don't know what the VFs are, but they're a lot lower. So even though your code says to go 100 inches a minute, if you're doing it in a small area, you're never going to get there. Right. You might only be at something like this tool path here. It's programmed at 120 inches a minute, but it's such a small distance where you're accelerating and decelerating. Even though the controller still says 100, you're not actually there. With the DT, you're gaining all that time on
16-minute savings on
almost 30% on a program.
Would you have gotten the 40 to the DM, I guess, the 40 taper version if they
I probably wouldn't, simply because we're not looking to do really heavy-duty milling, and you lose that spindle acceleration rate on the 40 taper machines. So this machine will actually tap at 5,000 RPM and get to 5,000 RPM.
Really? I've always heard they're the same machine except 40 taper, but you're right. There's no way to change the mass of the holder from a nacelle decel.
So for what we do on it, it's very small material removal. Yeah, it's great, and how fast they are. I would wish for a bigger door on it, because if you're trying to change out rotary fixtures, it's a little challenging to get in and out of there.
Right.
But gosh, you can just pack these things together.
Yeah.
So small, and you can actually move it with a pallet jack.
Hilarious.
I think it's 4,500 pounds.
So funny.
You do have to bolt them to the floor, otherwise it would be over there by the end of the day. It's so fast.
That's awesome. You designed the turret to buy a 5-axis and ended up with the horizontal too?
Yeah. One of the biggest reasons for this was, I mean, beyond the productivity gains, the chip management side of things.
These are crates from your material supplier, not your dad's crates.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, these are material supplier crates. So, I mean, we're cutting off quite a bit of material here, and we're doing it in a real hurry.
Yeah.
So this was being run in our VF4, and we were scoop shoveling out the machine, I think 3 times a day to keep the Y-axis from getting smashed up.
Yeah. Oh, so, yeah, right in the back of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
We're running 6 of these on a hex tombstone. On the NHX, we're able to hold the flatness and parallelism that we're looking for, just spacing it off, and the way we're holding it.
Yeah.
When I was actually machining the cast tombstones in there, I've got some drill bushings in there, and I was walking them in literally 1/10 at a time. I could tell it to grow 1/10. Especially working with steel, you would take that first finish pass, and let's say you do one hole, but you don't do the next hole because you measured that one.
Yeah.
Well, the next time you run that hole, it's going to grow more than that next hole that didn't have that first pass.
Sure.
Not on here. Like, they just hit that size every time, no matter how many times I reran the program. So the repeatability of this thing's just been nuts.
I've gotten really good at stock to leave and spring passes. I mean, it's kind of like just like things deflect, tools deflect. It's okay, carbide
it's
moves.
Consistent.
But
yeah, you don't really have to worry about it.
It's amazing.
Between this and the Grob, I've been able to eliminate a lot of spring passes. saves us a lot of time, obviously. So,
well, and that's the thing I learned, frankly, from doing the Kern tour was really redefining the word accuracy. It's not about 50 millionths tolerance or a tenth tolerance. It's about the fact that when your first part is plus or minus whatever, half a thou, so is the 500th part.
Yeah, exactly. Throughout the day, controlling all the thermal. This machine's got a chiller on the coolant so that the coolant's not getting up over 100 degrees like it might.
I never really understood that. The machine generates so much heat that it would heat the coolant up that hot?
Yeah, I mean, just you think about the coolant on the tool, how hot that tool is, you're vaporizing the coolant.
Yeah.
All that's getting put in there, you're running it through a coolant pump that's generating heat.
Sure.
All that coolant is in contact with all of the parts of the machine that you want to control thermally.
Right.
So you want to keep that coolant at a steady temperature.
Right. Easier to do that than more cast iron compensation and so forth. Got it.
And these have cooling through the ball screws and through the linear guides and everything as well.
Crazy. So wait, are those the only box? Everything else here, the Grob and
everything's linear other than the NLXs.
Got it.
Amazingly, the NLXs are also box on all axes, even the Y. I almost would have thought they would have put the X and Y on linear, but
the sub is on linear. In and out.
No, box as well.
Serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm 90% sure. Don't quote me on that, but
you're only quoted on YouTube.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Somebody will correct us.
This is all horizontal work?
Yeah. Yeah, we're, I think, waiting on crates to put all this stuff in. Actually, we got the crates. We don't have the foam dividers to put between them, so we're just kind of stacking it up for now. The one that's actually machining right now, we're holding basically one mounting plate for a 0, one primer tray for a 0, and 2 linkage arms. So that comprises one press worth of parts, and we're holding 6 of them. So every time that thing runs, we get 6 presses worth of everything that was a 3-axis vertical part for the 0.
Yeah, you did hex tombstones.
Yeah.
And how many are in the RPS?
RPS 5. So this is a 5 pallet pool. We've got 3 of the hex tombstones. One of them's not commissioned yet.
You get 5 plus 1 or just 5?
Just 5. Yeah.
Okay. Huh. And so what are you gonna have tombstones that you take off? Or
never the plan. The tombstones are built with the orange ball locks in them, so we can swap out the fixture plates on them instead of swapping the whole tombstone out.
Got it. Oh, that's smart.
So the way I looked at this machine originally was to have 3 super high density hex tombstones, and then the thought was that during the day I would make a riser that would have the rock block plate on it, so we could run all the fixtures that we do on our verticals in the horizontal during the day. So during the day, you're just going back and forth between those 2. After getting to know the machine a little bit and how long it takes to get those pallets to the changing station and how quick the cycle times would be on those rotary fixtures, I don't know that we can pull it off, so this might end up with 5 high density fixtures on it. It's been a real learning experience. It's not for the faint of heart as far as getting set up. The amount of time it takes to get one of these things up and running is
just from programming
unexpected.
And work holding. Oh yeah.
Designing such massive fixtures, and they gotta go through a vertical before they can go in here. Something that caught me off guard is that you can't reach down to you can't even reach close to the pallet face in your Y.
You got a spindle in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's actually off the flange of our hex tombstones. It's still like 1.1 inches above that surface that we can't reach in Y. So the machine would travel there. You just have this.
No,
you don't even have the travels there.
Yeah. What is the Y travel?
And the Y is huge on this machine. That was why I got the 500, was for the Y.
Okay.
I didn't need the 500 pallet size, but you get 28 inches, a little over 28 inches of Y.
Got it.
When you're talking 400 millimeter machines, I think you're down in the 19 to 20 inch range.
Yeah, it's like the Grob.
Yeah.
I'd never thought of this. So you have a totally modular tombstone based on the ball locks.
Yep.
That's
And
awesome.
it's two set screws that you loosen up, and those plates can come right off of there.
So that's a press.
That's
it's kind of
not a full press.
Got it.
But
you get your two linkages.
A press worth of parts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
everyone has two of these. That we've got op 1, op 2.
Yep.
Primer tray op 1, op 2. Mounting plate op 1, op 2.
Yeah. That's awesome. The uniforces that have the machine profile in them to handle that curve. There's people who have shimmed pit bulls, and there's people who will shim pit bulls.
Yeah, exactly. That's a challenge with especially these parts is they're 70-75 and you can't get extruded 70-75 in this size.
Got it.
So we're having to cut it out of plate. Yeah,
you really have no relief around here. That's a snug fit in that.
Yeah, that was one that we kind of walked because the outside of this doesn't really matter as far as size. So we kind of, and actually I didn't have to walk it in on this machine. I cut these pockets 1 thou radially over the finished size, and there's actually zero wear on the end mill, zero wear comp on the end mill that cuts that, and they just drop in. Pull one out to see. You have to be pretty deliberate about how you pull it out, otherwise you get a little
they'll bind up
center and it binds up. So.
That's amazing. Yeah, so and there's your ball lock access.
Yep.
Got it. There's another one up there or something.
Something I would do, if anybody's paying attention here, is I would thread that and put a plug in it, because coolant gets in there, and then when you're blowing these things off, it just keeps spraying coolant out of the hole.
Right.
Just a change that I want to make eventually, but these actually don't seem like much, but this controls how tight the linkage is on the zero,
sure.
because we've got a ball bearing in here, a thrust bearing here, and the shoulder bolt. So the distance between this surface here and this surface in here, we have to control to something like 5/10. And it's actually kind of a challenging thing to do it all while keeping all this stuff super flat and these bores super round. So we bore these with a big Kaiser single point boring head. So nice thing there is we set it once and it's good forever, especially in aluminum.
As someone who's made a few rounds on an old rock chucker, I'll tell you, like that's like a cast iron thing with a sleeve and the mandrel, and this thing is like all these bearings and precision. It's really a cool concept. 14
bearings, I think, in it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, unfortunately, not the most enjoyable machine to try to watch or film. You kind of.
Yeah. We've got a RotoClear camera coming for it to go on the inside. That way we can live stream this one as well.
Yeah.
You can't see too much.
The motion is amazing. When that whole tombstone comes toward that spindle, oh my God.
It's almost hard to fathom. Let's see, the cast iron tombstone itself was 750 pounds. There's probably another 300-400 pounds in aluminum plates on there. The pallet, the whole
base.
The whole base. It's got to be moving 5,000, 6,000 pounds, and it's doing it at 60 meters a minute.
And then the spin dry.
Yeah. And this one's actually 1.2 G's acceleration. So.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I had no idea.
The rapid moves they're scary.
Wow.
It's
you think of horizontal as being big and clunky?
Yeah, big.
No. Wow.
It's a pretty great thing that when you never use one of these, the rapid actually, you've got 10 increments until you get down to 25. You can actually go to 1% rapid, which is a big deal on something that moves that fast.
Right. Well, and you've got the dark side of the moon.
Yeah.
I mean, have you like put a mirror up back there or a camera?
Well, we haven't done anything other than on the base.
Okay.
If that's what you want
to say.
There you
go. A little bit better view now. I mean, seeing that come in and out, it just makes you happy. You can feel it. Are there a lot of choices to make within the NHX 5000 spindles, I'm sure, but other features?
Your options are Cat 40, Big Plus is standard. We ordered this one HSK 63. There's some control options, but the big things are tool capacity.
Okay.
We went with a 240 matrix tool changer on this one.
We
don't have that many tools in it right now, but never really want to run out of space there. And the idea with this being able to put any part we make in it at any time and not have to set up tools in it was pretty important at the time. They've got a RPS 14 and an RPS 21, so a 2-level and a 3-level. Maybe a regret on this one is not going with the bigger one. At the time, it just kind of scared me.
Oh, they're
the investment
very expensive, yeah.
Beyond the investment of the pool itself, which was probably 50% more than this one, then you have to actually fixture it up.
Yeah, right.
So,
and I'm guessing you cannot add to this one.
No. I think because the machine is built for automation, we could possibly sell this and get a different one, but it'd probably be prohibitively expensive to do that unless we needed it. So this machine came in 3 pieces. The machine itself, the pallet changer, and the tool changer. I think the tool changer was 9,000 pounds by itself. It's 12 feet tall. It's basically a 3-axis mill.
Yeah.
Inside of here, you've got 2 sets of linear rails and ball screws, driving a head that just goes around and grabs tools. I don't want to say this is the final revision of it. I think it has some improvements that can be made, but what we wanted to try to fix here was mixing coolant in buckets, one, and then also controlling the coolant percentage better.
Okay.
And not flooding the shop. So we've got coming down reverse osmosis water.
Okay.
We'll show that room as well.
Okay, so that's this line here.
That's our PVC line. Flows in. We've got a tap off here. This is just straight RO water if we need to top off with no extra concentrate. We've got
and
100
it's on
foot.
A meter though.
Yep, we've got these easy fill from coolantguy.com. I don't know how I came across these, but it's a metering valve. So you program in, I want 10 gallons of coolant, hit go, and it'll dispense 10 gallons of coolant and shut off. That way you're not turning on a valve, getting pulled away, and flooding the shop. So we can meter the straight water, comes in, goes through 2 water-driven DEMA mixing pumps. So these are, the great thing about these versus a Venturi style is it doesn't depend on your water flow rate. Whether you're flowing a gallon a minute or 5 gallons a minute, it's always going to mix at the same percentage. The reason we have 2 of them is we run our lathes at a little higher concentration than the mills, so we wanted to keep the kind of lathe area separate from the mill.
So same coolant on the whole shop, the 755.
Yep.
But just slightly different ratio, concentrations.
Yep. Yeah, because we run some titanium, 17.4. It likes to be more in the 10 to 12% range. And in the mill, it's just kind of wasted coolant at that point. Right? It doesn't hurt anything, but other than you're just throwing coolant away.
So if I want to add coolant in the Grob right now, what do I do?
So once it goes through the mixing pump, it gets plumbed. That line going up the wall there is mixed coolant and water. Once you get past here, we've got mixed coolant and water. So either this line right here is mixed or over there.
Okay, so you pull this over to the tank and just hook it into a...
That's where I say I don't think we're totally done, because in theory it seemed like this would be still more convenient than filling up a bucket, walking it around, but it's still kind of clunky. I think what we want to do now that we've got all of our conduit run and everything, we'll run water or mixed coolant lines to every machine.
Into the sump. Got it.
And put one of those easy fill boxes on there. I think this thing's pretty cool to show off. This is the 1000 PSI. Again, variable volume, variable pressure, variable volume. This one's also got the chiller as well.
It's just separated from the whole machine. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a monster. This one has cyclonic filtration, so there's no bag filters. Actually, in any of ours, there's no bag filters.
That's nice.
So anything that it doesn't like, it basically spits into that sludge tank. And then it just kind of overflows good coolant back into the main tank. What's crazy is that this coolant tank conveyor was attached to the machine when it got unloaded.
Really?
I don't know what it would take to pull this tank out. I don't really want to know.
Oh my, it looks huge.
It probably weighs 5,000 pounds. Got 4 or 5 coolant pumps on it.
Yeah.
So this was empty when we started the day today.
Incredible.
And it's, what time is it, noon? Something like that.
Yeah. This is a real problem though for you to run lights out. I mean, this will have to get...
Yeah, the big challenge is this right here.
Yeah.
This just keeps backing up. These hoppers don't do a really good job of getting the chips over here, so we're thinking maybe a second conveyor that would lift it up and be able to dump it. We've gone down the rabbit hole of briquetting machines and everything, which I think we're learning that we're losing a lot more coolant than we really knew about. I think we decided between the Grob and the NHX we're losing like 40 gallons of coolant a day.
Wow. And if you briquetted it, you would reuse that coolant?
Yeah.
Or clean it?
Yeah, we could filter it and reuse it. Plus we wouldn't have just the sheer volume of chips to have to deal with.
Here's the press body crate that his dad built, which is just beautiful wood craftsmanship. You know, all these joints lined up.
Yeah, I'm lucky to have my dad on my side. He puts a lot of love into something that's just meant to get the crap beat out of it on an LTL truck.
Yep.
As it sits right now, it's 16 so pounds, starts 22.
What did you say, 102 operations?
Yeah, I think so, 102 operations. Everything other than this detail here was done in one setup. So we can really control. What's ultra important on this is a raceway for our linear bearings that the ram operates in. And then here's the bore for the turret. So we want this totally parallel to this bore here.
Right.
And then just the size of the bores. So we single point bore this, and down in here. That way we never have to chase those sizes. All
separate boring heads for each diameter?
Yeah, because we've got 1.5 inches, 1 3/4, and 1 1/4. This one we actually press a drill bushing into for the ball bearing D10. This is actually still, this is still interpolated.
That's cool.
But we've been able to really control that size, especially now on the Grob. It just holds it all day. So,
can I load a part?
Yeah, that gets awesome. Ready for you.
So here. So you had to hold both these?
Yep.
This is really cool. Again, it's not just the Grob. It's like John found these. What do you call them? Rubber neodymiums?
Rubber encased neodymium magnets.
Yeah, awesome. And this is a pretty heavy wrench, and it works. Love it.
Yeah, that was a great little hack we put together the other day.
Yeah, you're right. Those aren't light. And so these are okay. Good, thank you.
There for you.
And you do the stamping on the clunker?
So this is the pre-stamping unit from Lang, the air over hydraulic, basically a couple thousand PSI of hydraulic pressure.
That's awesome.
Puts these little teeth mark in here. And instead of being a dovetail connection to the stock, you gain all that surface area around those teeth, and it also provides good locating.
Centering, you're right. That was my question, because I was watching the live feed, and I was like, how are they lining these up without a ruler of some kind or caliper? You want to check me? You want to check me? I think I got it. Yep.
So this is a palletized ready machine.
Okay.
This pallet could actually come off.
Got it.
We bought it that way, not knowing what automation route we were going to go, whether we want their pallet changer or a robot. But either way, it made sense to put that on there. There's also a few other things, the auto door, and a lot of the safety circuits that Siemens requires for automation has to be done when you buy the machine. They won't field install that stuff. So,
Got it.
especially on the control side. Obviously, it's a horizontal 5-axis, kind of unique.
Super unique, yeah.
Yeah, and especially what they call the tunnel concept. So the Z-axis, the spindle sucks all the way back in there. The best thing about this machine is you can run your largest part with your longest tool. So you can hold, I think, a 500 millimeter gauge length tool.
It was nuts.
With a part. It's kind of a dome shaped deal because you can't rotate over and run into that, but not having to fight around with, we got one really long drill on this part that in the UMC we had to position perfectly to get it there without running into the part, not having to fight with that.
It's phenomenal. Like they film great and they look great. They're easy to.
Yeah.
I guess if you robot load it, maybe it's not as important. But I mean, right here,
ergonomics. Yeah, you're standing right in there.
It's just funny because you have this. Again, it's insane how narrow it is, but it's still a big machine and it weighs what,
34,000 pounds.
Yeah. All for this.
Yeah. Yeah, a little 24-inch workspace.
Oh man.
So it's got the Bloom tool setter laser on it. Pretty great chip management from a coolant side. This that's a shower nozzle that basically water driven. We don't run it much because it kind of ruins the live feed. But they've also got jets up there. This is the mist collector. This thing's kind of crazy. It actually washes itself out as well. That little spiral shaped deal is a coolant nozzle. There's coolant nozzles all down around.
I love this. Oh my God, it's great.
And everything just funnels to the conveyor the way it should be. There's no sharp corners or bolts sticking out to catch chips.
Yeah.
And you get a few areas that they get packed up in, but it doesn't affect your anything day to day. You don't really have to worry about it other than it's nice to clean them up at the end of the day.
Right.
Then we've got the Roto Clear camera in there. That thing's pretty sweet. It's a 4K camera with this thing is actually spinning.
Yeah.
So as soon as coolant hits it, slings off, so you always get a clear picture.
Yeah, it looks great.
A lot of times you can actually see better on the camera than you can standing here at the machine.
But this machine is weeks old.
Yeah, I think it's got delivered on March 2nd. So
yeah, 23 days old or something.
And it's made 100 and so zero bodies.
It's amazing.
It took let's see, a 29-minute program in the UMC down to 19 minutes and 20 seconds. So combination of saving time, not clamping and unclamping it. You have the ability with this to clamp the table, but I actually don't clamp it ever, and it doesn't cause any issue.
Yeah.
This is torque motors in both the A and the B, so no gear train or anything. It's just direct drive.
That's
off
standard.
The motor. Standard, yeah.
Yeah. Watching it, we watched a zero press run this morning, and I think it goes across here with a 1/2-inch tool or a 3/4 tool.
3/4.
3/4 tool, and does a full slot.
Yeah. Don't even notice it.
Insane. Can we run it?
Yeah, fire it up.
This is the crazy thing about the Grob that I didn't realize on our tour is it's almost like the same width as the DT.
Yeah, it's, I think, if I remember right, 68 inches wide, but
Crazy.
it is 20. It also came in one package, so I think to the conveyor is 20 feet long.
Right.
It's a pretty tall machine, probably 10 feet tall, maybe a little bit taller.
But the chip tank's in there, the filter,
Yeah,
like
I mean,
everything's
everything is in
self-contained.
there, yeah.
It's amazing. Awesome. The drill.
There's another one that was empty this morning.
It's awesome.
Doesn't make them quite like the NHX, but
Yeah.
so we'll finish up the shop area. All our pallet racking finally got set up this week. It's kind of crazy to think that all this stuff came from our old shop. I mean, there's maybe a few extra things in here, but that shop was almost like a clown car.
Yeah.
The amount of stuff that kept coming over here was crazy.
And you had the racking custom painted.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we couldn't have this sweet looking building and just put some orange racking in it. So.
But have you always had that, like, are you a good designer? Does that stuff come to you, like that aesthetic, that?
A lot of that's my wife, but I like, as far as the shop goes, that was all kind of me and Justin, and
Yeah.
I just have this, I'm not always great at keeping things clean, but I have this desire to have things looking very clean
Right.
and neat and tidy, and I just love the, I mean, we paid quite a bit extra for this. It's an energy saver insulation, so it takes us from R6 up to R40 in the roof,
Wow.
so it makes sense because we're air conditioning this.
Yeah.
But it was almost a 50-50 split for what it looks like. It just looks,
Yeah, it looks great.
awesome compared to a normal metal building.
It also does, it makes the building feel more personal. I guess it doesn't feel like this cavernous, large. You told me, I think this shop is 18, or is the whole building?
12,000 for
What?
the shop. The
12?
whole building is 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
12, still, I mean, it has this
Yeah.
intimacy that's kind of strange.
Yeah.
So, sorry, racking and then assembly?
Yeah. We got a zero assembly parked out here for now. That was well, when we designed the building and started the process, the zero didn't even exist. So that's been kind of a challenge because we would have built the building bigger. The zero itself probably consumes a couple thousand square feet on its own, especially when you take into account the machines,
Right.
all the crates, all that stuff. So,
The Grob is really only planning to run zero bodies?
yep, the body and the linkage block. So,
It's
yeah,
the linkage block.
um,
Oh, that part that's on the rack there?
yeah.
Got
So,
it. Got
if
it.
sales continue the way they are, yeah, that Grob will only ever see this and what's running in it right now.
Crazy.
I think
That's an
we've
interesting way of thinking of automation because you don't have high mix. You have two parts.
Yeah, I think robotic workpiece handling makes the most sense where
Yeah.
we can get a completed part without touching it in between.
Yeah.
The thing why I didn't want to jump right into automation is, I mean, we cut 33% off the cycle time of that part, so even without automation, we're going to make these things so fast. So we're just going to have to see where sales go. This is our tool crib / QC room, at least that was the original plan. This was actually 5 feet bigger that way, but we needed more assembly space. And this honestly very well could become more assembly space. So this is its own climate controlled room. It has its own HVAC system. We can keep positive pressure in here. We can keep it perfect temperature. We can drop a CMM in here. We've got some more Russo cabinets coming in to fill this corner up. This HAIMER
the shrinker
power shrink actually just showed up last night about 5 o'clock.
I love the idea of having those diameter specific or range cooling sleeves.
Yeah, they've got the basically taper so they match right up.
Yeah.
Runs coolant through there. I bumped up to the one model up on this to get this head here that you actually, instead of changing out the like spacers, you just dial this to the diameter that you need, and it also sets the amount of reduction time as well.
That's great. Yeah, it's not an ounce more of energy than needed to get the tool in there. That's awesome.
Work our way into the office now.
Which also has an awesome feel.
Yeah, like this was all my wife's design. She did a great job.
Yeah, the polished concrete, the wood, and waterfront property.
Conference room here.
Oh, awesome.
See all of our lights are motion controlled LEDs, so they come on when you enter the room, go off.
Beautiful.
Got the kind of open concept, more industrial space feeling to it that we went with. And actually our sound masking just got turned on yesterday. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah.
Oh, it's like a white noise?
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, we planned on it all along, but...
From the shop? Is that what you're saying?
No, just people talking in different offices, and like the assembly room is also connected to all of this via the top space. So you could just hear everything, and
and that does it.
It's crazy. If we turned it off right now, you would hear every single thing going on in every room.
It almost sounds like a fan, like the HVAC system just turned on.
You're pumping a bunch of air through one small vent or something. So I got my office here that I actually haven't even used since we moved in. Been out on the floor the whole time. Justin, Director of Operations, and Craig, don't know where he's at, Director of Sales and Marketing. We've got engineering and customer service, open office space out here. Camera storage room right now / spare office. Got another spare office over there yet. And then
the
vault door.
Vault. It's amazing.
Well, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the door is three and some change thousand pounds, just the door itself. An 1.25 inch thick stainless.
That's awesome. I don't want to lock anybody.
Yeah, no, you're fine. It's Big Dog Steel cut out the sign for us on there, as well as the lit up sign in here.
Yeah, it looks great.
This is still a work in progress. Reloading area is just kind of getting moved in. And we've got some.
Is this going to look like, because you had that, I remember from last week, you had that reloading room, and that's what this is going to be?
Yeah, that's the goal. Okay. We'll kind of use this as a mixed purpose space for reloading, as well as some filming of new product video, stuff like that over here. Hang some rifles on the wall. It's just kind of a, I don't know, this is more of
like
a cave. Show off man cave space really than anything too functional.
Got it. Actually, the thing that I'm excited to see totally blew me away, because it's just not, I think it's a testament to your, it's going to sound corny, but your leadership as an entrepreneur, is how nice a kitchen you made. No, I'm serious. Because no one would ever think that. You'd think we're going to spend our dollars on machines and, TVs, but this is amazing.
Yeah, this is, I'd say everything, well, even the shop space, how nice everything was. I mean, we obviously all like nice stuff, but it was mostly for employee morale, I would say. I don't know how many shops that are looking for people and just can't find people. We don't really have any trouble finding people because we find people want to come work here.
Right.
We've got this very clean.
I want to come work here.
All new machinery, all new.
Right.
I mean, the way we were eating lunch at the old shop was pretty pathetic. I mean, we had a 8-foot fold-up table that we'd all cram into. So, yeah, we went with the full kitchen here, overlooking the lake out here.
So this is what used to be the sand. You said
Yeah.
sand mine.
Yep. So it's not very deep. It's only about 4 or 5 feet on average, but 30 some acres of water and pretty good largemouth fishing in there.
That's awesome. You stock it?
We didn't. Somebody else did.
No
and
kidding.
There's some 4 or 5 pound largemouth in there.
Sweet.
Unexpected, but
Yeah.
much appreciated.
Do you guys have? Does everyone eat lunch together, or is it like a scheduled thing, or?
Every Wednesday we do a company lunch
Okay.
that we buy. So we all kind of sit down, and that's the one day that we all eat together.
Yeah.
I'd say the majority of times I see a lot of people sitting in here. It's not like just onesie twosies. So
Got it.
the shop floor tends to be much more sporadic on when we take lunch. We don't have any set breaks or anything like that.
Cool.
Maybe my favorite part was the coffee maker.
That's the coffee maker?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Fully automatic, grinds the beans as you order. It's all plumbed into the water system, so you're not refilling it. And
Right.
it's just something stupid, but we had a Keurig at the old shop, and it was just always a mess around it. And this was a way to keep it clean and still. Last time I looked, this thing had made 470 some coffees in like 3 weeks. So
Right.
we use the crap out of it. Everybody pretty much lives on coffee.
Yeah, it's awesome. The double fridges, that looks nice. It looks deliberate. Like,
Yeah.
it's cool.
Yeah, a lot of thought went into this room. I think we've got seating for 28 or something like that. So
Yeah.
at some point we'll outgrow it, but
It's funny, just like, again, I never would have ever thought that seeing the kitchen in a shop tour would be
yeah.
in any way relevant, but you nailed it. I mean, there's this continuous conversation around finding people, finding talent, and it's not simple, but in some respects it is. You know, be a place you want to work like this.
Yeah, exactly. At least don't get that out of your favor.
Right.
Maybe you still have trouble finding people, but you don't want it working against you
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
just a dirty place that nobody wants to actually work at.
Well, and it's funny. I mean, I knew you in the old shop, and it wasn't like you didn't want to do more things, but you're also space limited. But
Yeah.
again, like you said, it's the things that drove you nuts about the old shop that
Yeah.
drive the decision making on this one.
Yeah, exactly. Even down to I don't know if we want to show off the bathrooms, but
Yeah.
that was a pretty crazy part about being in a machine shop. And
Actually, before we go in the bathroom, even just like you got the, I think it's right through here, the water fountain fill, and then the group hand. Like, I would love to have one. Actually, we should get one of those things. It's right? You're always
yeah, Bradley sink. A lot
Is that what it's
easier
called,
to
Bradley?
Bradley, yeah, it's the brand name on it. So water fountains are actually code to have.
Really?
But we did opt for the bottle filler, and it gets used a lot. We saved 563 bottles actually since we moved in.
I always just
fills
wonder
a
if that's just
bottle
like
in a hurry.
automatic counter though. Did it actually,
Yeah, it might be based off like shot glass sized water bottles.
Oh, and then you got a baler. I mean, that's amazing. So you just
Yeah,
throw,
you can already see.
you just,
Yeah,
don't
nobody has to feel bad about not breaking down their boxes anymore.
yeah.
Just throw them in there, and
And you just pull this down?
yep, it's actually ready to run now. Now, somebody should have felt bad about that one.
Can I
Press the green button for a second or two, and then let it go.
Does it automatically,
Yeah, it'll get to a certain load and then pop off and go back up.
but does it automatically bind them?
Oh, no, you keep it shut, open the door, you run those wires, bind it up, and then
got it.
it's got like a strap in the bottom of it, and then you raise the ram up and it flips the bale out. So, I mean, at the old shop we were running actually that little U-line tote. Probably at least once a week we'd have to run cardboard because we weren't just throwing it away, we were recycling it.
Yeah.
We make a lot of cardboard. Even though we ship most of it out, we get
Right.
a ton of stuff coming in.
Is it done? Is it done?
Yeah.
Oh, so we forgot to look at the water room.
Yeah. So, got our heated propane fired power washer out here. This was maybe a remnant of the old shop where every time we would change over the Haas coolant tanks every 6 months or whatever, we would take the tanks outside, power wash them out. So we wanted to be able to really strip them out. Now with the new machines, the tanks probably don't really come out that easy, so I don't know if we'll do it, but we've got enough hose we can take it to anywhere in the shop and power wash stuff in place and then pump the water out. But it might get used more for cleaning mud off the side-by-sides than anything. So this is our water treatment closet. We're running on well water here. We've got 2-point wells. So it comes in, pumps into the pressure tank. We soften it first, then makes its way into a sediment backwashing filter, then through this US Water Systems RO system. This thing will make, I think, 6,000 gallons a day is what they rate it for. They tell you to derate it by 50%. I don't know why they don't just rate it at 3,000 to begin with. But it's very dependent on incoming water quality, is I think why the big range. So probably didn't need this big of a system. We didn't want to be too small, but I mean, this thing only ever fluctuates between like here and here.
Got it.
So
this is good water. This is like...
This is RO water.
Yeah.
Yep. This is they call it an atmospheric tank, so it's not sealed. So it still has to go through this UV filter here that kills off any bacteria that might have grown in here. We had planned on running DI water, but we found now with the coolant we're running that it's just unnecessary. Even this water is technically too good to fill up with.
It's funny, yeah.
It's good to top off, but for the initial charge, it's almost too good. You need some minerals in there to...
They act as, I'm not a chemist, like binders almost. They help the emulsification of the coolant.
Exactly.
Perfect water's no good.
Yeah.
So this is the other end of the pipe we saw a minute ago.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what feeds the coolant mixing station.
Got it.
The one great thing about RO, though, is, especially if you're on a well, is the ability to get basically city water pressure. This thing pumps it back up to 70 psi.
Got it.
So we get about 5 gallons a minute mixed coolant at the machines.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Helps with a lot of time spent filling coolant tanks.
Right. And with the bathrooms?
And with the bathrooms, I guess. Maybe we can cut this part out, we'll see.
Never.
So, nothing too crazy, just we didn't want to end with such nice stuff out there and just make it a trashy bathroom. So.
Right, it's awesome. I like it. After a year of COVID and like not traveling, I'm happy to have a shop tour of bathrooms. Seriously. Yeah. John, thank you. Amazing shop. I mean, you should be proud. I know you're a very humble person, but this is an incredible tour. You've got a great story. I've learned a lot. I'm sure folks watching will learn a lot. It's also just enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like, awesome set of machines and processes.
Yeah, I hope I can help other people out by seeing some of the stuff we've done along the way. It's always good to have that kind of advice. So it's been a crazy ride.
It's not over yet.
Yeah, no kidding.
So area419.com, Instagram, Facebook, you got the usual social media stuff for you guys?
Yep.
Folks want to learn more, see more?
Yeah, we're all over the place. Area 419, you can find pretty much anything.
Awesome. Folks, hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed. Take care. Maybe we'll be back in a year or two for the next tour of the next side of the shop. Otherwise, see you soon.
Thanks.